Good day there once again, viewers. Your mate Kamikaze78 here, coming to you guys with some more PUBG content. Today guys, we're going to be talking about some tips and tricks that will help you survive the end game of a PUBG match. You've risen from the chaos that was the initial drop, you've made short work of all of those that you've come across through the mid game, but now the circle is closing in rapidly and there are 20 people left. While the wrong move in any stage of a PUBG match can send you straight to the main menu, a wrong move in the late game is sure to put you in the ground quickly. All it takes is one step too far, one missed shot, or one miscalculation with the circle to undo all of your hard work. But with this video guys, we're going to be talking about how to read situations, how to read the circle, and decide how to react accordingly. Now, while I can't offer a black and white, step-by-step instructional guide on how to win a match in PUBG, because, well, every match is different, there are tips that you can take into every match with you to bring home more chicken dinners, and that's what we're going to be talking about in this video. Now, the most important thing that we certainly need to talk about here is situational awareness. In the late stage of the game, it is very easy to quickly become tunnel visioned, focused on a single target that you spotted as you were moving for the circle earlier in the game. Hell, maybe you've been lucky enough to find yourself a piece of cover that is both in the next circle and put you in a prime spot to engage that player if he decides to come your way. And while at the time it might sound like a good idea to keep a constant beat on this guy just in case he decides to push you, or you see an opportunity to engage him, you must remember to keep your head on a swivel and check your surroundings. In this final stage of the game, players are going to be sneaking around everywhere, trying to find a piece of real estate to call their own in the confines of the circles to come. Sure, keep tabs on the guy that you have in your crosshairs just in case he decides to push you, but always keep an eye on literally every angle around you that you aren't directly covered from. It is absolutely key. It should be obvious, but the amount of times that I've seen people tunnel visioning on other players is beyond ridiculous, and it has lost them their games. Something that will come to you over time as you play Battlegrounds is your knowledge of the map, where people could be hiding, where people might move to get some cover, and consequently, how you can take advantage of that. Always take note of the circle and try to pinpoint some hotspots where players will try to reach. Things like defilades in the terrain, buildings, hills, trees, rocks, hay bales, little things like that which can give you an idea as to what to expect. And yes, I know that you should always say expect the unexpected when playing Battlegrounds, but having an idea as to where players might be might help you win that chicken dinner in the long run. As I said before, this is something that will come to you as you play the game more over time, and as you learn the map, you'll begin to have an idea as to what the terrain offers other players, which will give you an advantage and a way to predict the movements of players making dashes for the future circles. Something else that you must be doing all the time when you're in the end game of Battlegrounds is using sound. Listening out for other firefights and just audio cues in general, such as cars stopping, can also help you get an idea as to how the players that remain are spread out throughout the circle. Knowing that there is a player to your close left that is just scraped by in a firefight might serve as a bit of an opportunity for you to knock out a player of the game really easily. Of course, assuming that you don't have to sacrifice a nice position to do so. However, keep in mind that if you do decide to engage the player in question, then another player might very well have the same idea as you to come and investigate. Whenever you come out of a firefight in this late stage of the game, take a moment to check your surroundings for any players who are keen for a quick and easy kill. With that said, do not get trigger happy. Always, and I mean always, make sure that when you engage a target, you can finish the kill. The last thing you want to do in the late stage of the game is get stuck in a long ass firefight, because remember what we said earlier about tunnel visioning? Yeah, the major cause of tunnel visioning in the late stage of the game is getting stuck in a back and forth firefight. Again, relating back to what we said a couple seconds ago, other players are just going to be able to enter the equation to come in and pick off a nice and easy kill or two. The amount of easy kills that I've personally secured from players getting stuck in stupid back and forth firefights via two trees is insane. So only ever go about shooting targets when you know you can get the kill. It's a big element of winning a Battlegrounds game. Now, one of the biggest mistakes that I see people make in this game, especially in the late stage of the game, is looting unnecessarily. Sure, the player you just killed might have been carrying a sweet sniper rifle, a couple of extra bandages, or maybe even an assault rifle suppressor that you've been dying to get your hands on all game. But in the late stage of the game, never, and I repeat, never sacrifice a good position just so you can loot a player. The majority of your looting should have been done at the very start of the game, and really going out and looting a player in the late stage of the game only exposes you to all of the other players whom have heard your little tussle, and most of the time you're going to reap a very little reward. Sure, an AWM would have been nice, but how good is it really going to be in the final stages of the game? Most of the time you would just be better off using an AR. So for the love of God, don't risk your bacon for something that isn't going to reward you for taking that said risk. The only time you should ever sacrifice a position for loot is if you are running out of meds or ammo and desperately need either to survive. Which, on that note, segues us nicely into the thing that we should definitely talk about next: positioning and movement in general. Arguably, one of the most important things that you need to master to win a game of PUBG is movement and positioning. If we were to talk to any of the competitive or top tier PUBG players, they would say that while kills are important, positioning is king. In most cases, the winner of a game will be determined by who had the better position and who was better prepared for the final zone. Yes, sometimes the turnout of a game can be changed by the luck of the draw with the final circle, and sometimes it can be determined by a clutch 1 versus 4 play. But still, it doesn't hurt to always consider how you can better position yourself. The first step to positioning yourself effectively is not exposing yourself more than what you have to. In Battlegrounds, unless you're playing in first-person only servers, you have the third-person camera to use. So for the love of God, fucking use it. You can quite comfortably sit behind a piece of cover or even a lip in the terrain and keep watch of an angle that you consider to be a big concern without having to expose yourself, which is going to make life much easier for you when it comes to getting the drop on people that are rushing for a circle. As far as deciding what angles you should be covering yourself from, factors such as flight path, parked vehicles, what buildings are in the zone, previous firefights that you've caught whim of, and the landscape in general play a role, and learning how to factor all of these into your playstyle will become easier as you practice to position yourself better. However, when it comes to movement and positioning, something else that I feel you must consider when you are moving in the late stages of the game is the circle and how you can use it to your advantage. A very powerful technique to make use of in the late game is moving towards the side of the circle that has the least amount of ground to make up. Of course, assuming that you have at least some options when it comes to cover in that side of the circle. In PUBG games, I often see people planting themselves somewhere and refusing to move until the circle forces them to, which is all well and good and all. It's a very safe way to play. But then they find themselves in a breakneck sprint from the circle as it moves in, which means that if they get caught out in a firefight, they're going to get stuck in the circle, which in the late game is really painful, can be quite damaging. Not to mention that while players are in this breakneck sprint escaping the circle, situational awareness takes a huge hit because there is no time to actually look at to see what you're going to be dealing with and where you can go for cover. By moving to the side of the circle that has less ground to make, the circle is in fact going to move a lot slower, which means that you have more options to work with. When you're in this position, you have the option to wait until the last minute because you don't have to move as fast to keep up with the circle's speed as the poor bastards that are on the fast moving side of the circle. You also have the opportunity to move up to a position that lets you ambush people who have been forced to move at Mach 5 to avoid the circle. So yeah, when you can, try and make use of the circle by positioning yourself in a place where you can move a little bit more tactically and with less panic. Keeping calm and collected is a key to winning a Battlegrounds game, and by adopting this tip, you should be thrown into less panic-driven scenarios. And that right there, my friends, is quite possibly the most important tip that I can give people that are interested in sort of moving up in the world of Battlegrounds. Staying calm and collected, especially in the final 1 versus 1 stage of the game, is going to put you in a much more powerful position, because if you're panicking, if you're frantic, you're going to make a rash decision and thus it's going to lose you the game really, really quickly. Always approach situations from an analytical perspective and examine all of your options before you commit. that is the way to win a Battlegrounds game. Remain adaptable and take into consideration all of these tips, and I can guarantee you, you'll start seeing some results. Guys, on that note, that's going to wrap up today's video discussing PUBG and how to, sort of move your way up in the world of the late stage of the game. If you guys found today's video enjoyable and or informative, a backhanding of that like button would be greatly appreciated. And if you find yourself backhanding that like button and you're new to the channel, then why don't you go around and backhand that subscribe button whilst you're at it, and leave some feedback in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say about this video. It certainly took a while to get the script together and sort of prioritize what tips had to go where. If you guys didn't enjoy today's video, then backhand that dislike button and leave some feedback in the comment section down below. Once again guys, hope you enjoyed today's video. Peace out, and I'll be seeing you all next time. Have a good one.